Rabbi Menachem Margolin, thank you so much for joining my podcast today.
Thank you for having me.
It is a pleasure to get to speak to you, but unfortunately, during somber circumstances for Jews in Europe and in the world in general. The reason for that I wanted to speak to you today is because lately, just this week, Jewish leaders passed an emergency resolution declaring European inaction on anti-Semitism as unforgivable. What is the reason that you have come to this resolution and also this conclusion?
It is very strange, I must say. There are 3 million Jews who live in Europe today. And we would have think that in today's world, in democracy, people are aware of things. The level of ignorance is different than millenniums ago. And yet, the Jews of Europe have zero certainty regarding the future of Jewish life in Europe. And during the conference, we spoke to many of the Jewish leaders who came from over 20 countries and hundreds of communities. And when you ask people, so how is the situation for the Jews in your country? Everybody gives the same answer. I mean, most of them, not good. So the fact that Jews are not secured in Europe, that's shocking. And therefore, we came out with a strong statement asking the governments to finally stand behind the statements and do something.
Because you are also the leader, as I understand, for the European Jewish Association, and it should send a strong signal to the European governments, I think, when you have this new declaration. And do you believe that the European governments will listen to you and will take this seriously?
The problem is that there are good people also in the leadership of Europe. The problem is that they are politicians. And being in politics means that you do not necessarily do the right things, but you do what you think that people want from you. And you mainly consider the people who could vote for you. And since the Jewish community is not big in number, and our impact on elections is limited, sadly, leaders in Europe does not take it seriously enough. So they do give strong statements from time to time. They do condemn anti-Semitic incidents. They do come to visit Jewish communities and synagogues. They participate Holocaust memorial events. So they do what they think is the right thing to do, just in terms to be covered in the nice way in the media. But when it comes to practical and serious actions, sadly, most of them do not do the necessary.
There's a lot of symbolism and just being at the right places at the right times, cutting ribbons and doing the right things for the photo ops. And then when it comes to actually doing the work, then they're not showing up. Is that correct?
Sadly, it is correct in most of the countries. Of course, from time to time, they have to show that they do something, not because they feel much pressure, but sometimes the media asks them, or leaders ask them, or some other governments. It could be President Trump, it could be State of Israel, it could be some other politicians from other countries. So sometimes they get some pressure. Then the problem is that most of the politicians today, they do not prevent things. They only deal with fires only after the fires the fire are there. And for this reason, until you don't see serious terror attack or incidents, they're silent. Only when something happens, they immediately come and promise and respond. But the thing is that the nature of humankind is that we get used to stuff, and sadly, all those incidents that would need to be actually shocking and alarming, it became so obvious and so normal that anti-Semitic incidents take place that the numbers do not shock anyone, and therefore, it's a very bizarre situation where you have a big community who live in Europe for millenniums, who first of all deserve full rights like any other citizens. We do not ask for anything but just to live peacefully, secure, and enjoy the rights that any other citizens have: the right to live and the right to live our life also according to our religion. And so we do not demand anything which is special. And yet, the fact that millions of Jews do not feel secured in Europe, millions of Jews see threats on our daily life, and yet the numbers are not shocking just because almost every single day, actually not every 15 minutes, another anti-Semitic incidents take place somewhere in Europe. So when something happens so much and so often, leaders does not see it as shocking anymore, and that's I would say the biggest issues that we have.
What is it that has happened lately that makes anti-Semitism increase so much that you pass this emergency resolution? What is the grounds for passing this? What is the background for this?
I think that if we will go to research and try to understand what the reasons we say behind the general anti-Semitism, the answers are quite clear. Part of it came from religious background, old age, from over 2,000 years, where the Christians blamed the Jews, and then at a certain point the Muslims blamed the Jews. But I must say that in a way, since Christianities adopted Western values, there are much less of those who accuse the Jewish people for religious reasons. But yet it still exists. It did not disappear, especially in countries where the church were very strong and they did not adopt, I would say, Western values. So indeed, countries that do not live according to Western values, you could see the much more anti-Semitism that come from, let's say, from this religious point of view. On the other hand, the issue in the Middle East and the fact that for every Jew around the world, we are one nation. And of course, the people who live in Israel are our brothers and sisters, and we feel for them, we care for them. And actually, it's even more than that. The state of Israel is the life guarantee for Jews across the globe. There is no one single Jew who does not feel the needs of a strong state of Israel. After 2,000 years of Jewish people living in Europe, going through so many sad and tragedy events in almost every single country, and seeing the level of anti-Semitism and hatred towards Jewish people, regardless of anything. So that's always the reason why every Jew around the world see crucial importance for the Jews to have our own country. Yet, the vast majority of the Jews do not live in Israel. They live in Europe, they live in the United States, they live in Canada, and they are loyal to the countries where they live. They are Spanish, they are French, they are British, they are German, they are Swedish, they are Norwegian, they are Belgian, and they feel for the countries, they speak the languages, they share the culture, they like the customs of the country, the rich culture of every single country. And yet we still see too many Europeans who blame the Jews who live in Europe for being not loyal, for doubt the loyalty of the Jewish people. And of course, for every citizen, when you think that somebody is not loyal to your country, you're not happy with that. And the fact that Jews do feel for the state of Israel, and they do feel for our brothers and sisters who go through terror attacks every single day, and we all have families in Israel, friends in Israel, and we share the tragedies and the sadness of the Jews who live in Israel. Unfortunately, this sympathy and empathy that the Jews the European Jews share with the Israelis, it makes too many Europeans to doubt the loyalty of the Jewish people who live in Europe. And that's one thing. Second thing is the war in Gaza. And the war between the Israelis and Gaza, which is, we cannot forget that it started by the terrorist organizations who came to Israel, raped girls and cut heads of babies and burned children alive and took hostages, citizen hostages to Gaza, tortured them and burned houses and villages and killed 1,400 people in one day. And then Israel, a couple of weeks later, came to Gaza in order to try to rescue the hostages and fight with the terrorists. And yet, in Europe, the narrative is so much support the Palestinians and the Hamas, which actually makes the people to be upset at Israel. And what we found actually in the surveys that we revealed this week is that actually one of every fifth European blame not only Israel for the fight against Hamas, but they actually blame the European Jews for being directly responsible for the war in Gaza. So when they mainly show images, which most of them are fake, as we call it, Gaza Wood, which is a lot of fake movies coming from Gaza, and they see the pictures, and then they blame the Jews in their own countries. That, of course, something that they bring much more hatred toward the Jewish people, which is not less than a tragedy itself.
Isn't it paradoxical that the worst attack on Jews and Jewish life since the Holocaust, literally, um, is what makes the anti-Semitism towards Jews rise? While, as if you think logically, you would think the opposite, like people would have more sympathy for Jews and for Israel after being attacked so viciously and slaughtered like that. Isn't or is this paradoxical effect, is that a mechanism of anti-Semitism, you think?
Of course, it is anti-Semitism. I mean, first of all, there are many different wars in the world right now as we speak. I never heard of any Russian person who was attacked in Europe for the war against Ukraine. And if we need to remind, hundreds of thousands of people died in the last 3 years in Ukraine and Russia. I did not see any Chinese person being accused in Europe for the war, for the conflict with Taiwan, or for arresting, according to the information, millions of Muslims. I did not see anyone who attacked American people for the fight or for the war they had in Afghanistan or in Iraq. And we do not speak about Israel, we speak about Jews who live in Europe, and yet we are accused and not only criticized but attacked on a daily basis. The number of times that I could go on the street and somebody will tell me, free Palestine, or from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, or many other statements. My name is not Benjamin Netanyahu. I do not sit in Jerusalem and take policies. I do not run the war. What do I have to do with the war between Israel and Gaza? You have my opinion, like you have, everybody have their own opinion. I do not go to people in the street and I ask them what is their opinion. Maybe they will be surprised when they will hear my opinion. But the fact that I look Jew makes already or gives already reason to too many people to attack me on the street, or to criticize me on the streets, or to curse me on the street, which is yes, it is anti-Semitism.
Is it disappointing, just 80 years after the Second World War and the Holocaust, that we again now see a rise in anti-Semitism?
It is way more than disappointing. It's scaring. The Jews are optimistic people because we are believers. And as believers, you always have to believe that things will be fine and things will be good, and you have to never give up and never, you always have to be positive. And when we read stories of the past, of the Holocaust and before the Holocaust, and you hear that things did not start in one day. It was not. It started slowly, with different things that happened. A few things that happened at the beginning. Jews are not allowed to enter the park. Okay, so we go to another park. Okay, Jews are not allowed to enter coffee shop. Okay, that's okay. We'll go to restaurants. Oh, we're not allowed to go to restaurant. That's okay. We sit somewhere. Oh, Jews are not allowed to walk on the side way. Okay, that's okay. We'll go there on the main road. As long as they don't kill us, okay, that's okay. Oh, Jews are not allowed to have a kosher meat. Okay, we'll manage. Okay, Jews are not allowed to circumcise the children. No, we'll do it privately. So it happened slowly, with a lot of incitement and a lot of bad stories in the media, fake stories in the media, in order to destroy the reputation of the Jewish people. And when we see that it could happen again, and it happens on a daily basis, more and more incitements, more and more negative stories against Jewish people, more and more Jews accused on the streets, children are not secured in schools. It's scary. It's scary that if it's happened then, it could happen again. And I can tell you today that too many Jews do not feel certainty that something like the Holocaust will not happen again. And the fact that there are, and not because we have psychological issues, we are healthy people, most of us, yet we have long memory and rich history, and I'm sure, unfortunately, very sad memories. And we also read books, we read history, we still hear people who survived the war, we heard how it started. And when we see the level of hatred and the level of ignorance, I would say, by the majority of the people and by most of the governments, it gives us many, many reasons to be very scared about the future.
Yeah, I find it very difficult myself to calibrate what is my subjective feeling of fear for what can happen, and what is like the actual level of objective reason to be scared. Because I'm also Jewish, and my great grandmother was killed in the Holocaust, and I feel like I speak to a lot of Jewish friends of mine also who also feel that difficulty. Is this just me? Am I exaggerating this? Is it just my Jewish perspective that is seeing this through the lens of our history of the Holocaust, making me see this more dangerous than it is, or is it me as being Jewish who is able to see this? We are able to see the mechanisms of anti-Semitism, and able to see, like a chess game, you're able to see 5 and 10 and 15 steps ahead, and that is a strength in this situation. What do you feel about that balance, and trying to calibrate that balance of where you should position yourself?
No, first of all, it is natural that somebody was hurt one time, second time, third time, fourth time is much more careful. It should be like that. But more than that, I think that if it would be just feelings because of the past, we could have said, guys, forget about it. Not forget about it, but it happened already. It finished. But it continues. It continues every single day. 2 days ago, we came to Brussels from our conference in Madrid. The police of Antwerp, they raided houses of two Mohalim, those who are trained to perform circumcision, and they called for investigation for, the last people. They raided into houses of Mohalim and called for investigation for performing a Jewish tradition was Stalin. And here we live in Europe in 2025, and not because anybody complained that something happened, not because of any medical injury, nothing. So you cannot do ritual slaughter in Belgium anymore. Now this issue with circumcision. So what next? What next? What should we wait for? Security around Jewish institutions still, thanks God, is there, but not everywhere, not all the time. So what next? So how Jews could feel confident and secured in a country where the freedom of religion are not secured, that the police is going after those who perform ritual slaughter or circumcision, that a journalist could write in a newspaper that he would like to stop a knife in the throat of every Jew that you see on the street because of pictures he gets from Gaza, and according to the court, is not even guilty, and for incitement. So what else could we expect? Now, this is Belgium. We don't speak about a country which do not know what are Western values, a country who does not understand the importance of freedom of religion. And also, sometimes people ask, every person that will come with a new custom, so just because of freedom of religion, we have to allow it. Well, we are not a new religion. We are not new people coming from, I don't know, from where, from the moon. We live in Europe for millenniums. When the European Union and European governments adopted the treaty and the freedom of religion, they knew already what kind of religion exists in Europe. And we existed. And we lived with the exact same tradition for millenniums. So what happened now? How comes it now suddenly our rights are not important, are not secured? So yeah, so I absolutely don't think that the fear that the Jewish people feel come because of psychological issues or because of over reaction. It is because we have not only the memories of the past, but the experience that we have on a daily basis, where we, as I said at the beginning, every 15 minutes another anti-Semitic incident take place in Europe.
Do you or the Jewish friends that you are in your Jewish network and community, do you feel like people have a set, like a red line for when people are starting to feel like, oh, we have to leave, we have to go to Israel, we have to go to the only Jewish state in the world? Is there some like up until this point, and after it crosses that kind of red line, then that's it? Or do you feel like people are more dynamic in it, trying to see as it goes, as we've been speaking about here? Or is there some kind of threshold for when it crosses that, and that's it for you and for your community?
It's a very good question. In general, of course, when you speak about millions of people, you cannot just
Yeah.
come with one opinion. Every person has his own opinion and has his own feelings. It also depends on the situation of every person. Some people think that because they do not look Jewish, it's not that dangerous for them because nobody knows that they're Jewish. So that's okay. We'll manage. We'll survive. Nobody will know. That's stupid. I'm sorry to say, because the Nazis were able to find everybody. And today, in today's world, easily, much easier, you could find what a person is associated with and whatever. So that's very silly. You have those that, because of lack of financial possibilities, they cannot really think of immigrating to another country and how they will survive. So they try always to postpone it until sometimes, or in the past, it was not possible anymore. But yet, because every person has his own red lines, that's the reasons that we see ongoing people who live, ongoing number in the people who live in Europe. Every year, you have thousands of people who leave Europe and move to Israel or to the United States. So I think that I believe that for some people the red lines was the moment my child will be attacked in the school, that's be my red line. Those people that went through a religious experience decided to leave Europe. Some people will say, for me, the red line will be the moment I will not get a job because I'm Jewish, and then they will leave because somebody will tell them, because you're a Jew, you cannot get this work. So I think that because the situation is getting worse in different countries in different speeds, then we'll see it. I mean, there's no one red line that everybody could accept. But for me, the red line is the commitment of the government, which means at the end of the day, at least in democratic country, but everywhere, these governments that rules the country, and the government has the right to rule everything. They control the legislation, they control the education, they control the law enforcement, the police, the army, and as long as the governments are officially committed to secure the Jewish people, it could work. We just have to remind them of their responsibility and push them to fulfill their responsibilities. The moment we will see in governments, majority of political parties that will say the Jews are not our problem, they have to manage themselves, that will be the sign for the Jews to leave the countries. Because
Well,
if you read a bit of the history in the past in the former Soviet Union countries, where so many pogroms took place because of incitements of different people, and back then, the Jews had to go to the local governor and to bribe him and pay him for him to send the police officers to stop the pogrom. So even then, the Jews understood that in order to survive, you have to keep good contact with the authorities and do the necessary. Today in the West, not necessarily you have to bribe political leaders, but you do have to push them to fulfill the commitment. So for me, as long as the governments are committed to combat anti-Semitism and ensure Jewish future, there's still a chance and a possibility to live here. If the government will not be committed anymore, that will be indeed the sign to leave.
the wave of anti-Semitism that we see sweeping over Europe now, and indeed the world, this zeitgeist, this general feeling. Do you think a lot of this is subconscious, that people aren't even aware of what they are acting out, or what the hate that they're acting out, and the mechanisms of anti-Semitism? Do you think a lot of that is subconscious, that people don't know what they're doing?
You know, most people in the world work very hard to make money, and they put a lot of efforts to make money, work many hours, and most people spend or maybe waste a lot of money just because of they were manipulated by advertisements, by marketing, were convinced by it's actually manipulation. So basically, you see that even something which is really important for people waste it, and in a very stupid way. After that, of course, many of them regret, but they do it because of manipulation. In today's world, this manipulation continues, especially since the social media, which is amazing, but it also gave the possibility to many people who does not carry any responsibility, to share information. At least in the established media outlets, the media do have kind of responsibility not to say something which is untrue. If an important newspaper or TV channel will publish something which is a real lie, they will have to apologize in a way. But people on social media could get hundreds of thousands of followers just because they do some stupid stuff or they share funny videos, and then they could manipulate many other followers to do different things. So I think that indeed vast majority of the people does not really know what is it for, but they were manipulated by influential social media or by images and terrifying videos, etc. But too many do know exactly what do they do, and it was always like that. You have always those who supports, those who opposed, and the big number in the middle, which are like does not really have an opinion, but they go with the flow. They're following the friends. So we do have a lot of we do see a lot of ignorance, but yet those who hate Israel, those who hate Jews, are too strong, are too many, and they unfortunately successful in mobilizing too many people to follow them and to give the impression that there's a massive number of people who are against Israel and the Jewish people.
Over the years with my podcast, now I started in 2023, just before 7th of October, but I've been very interested in trying to dig down as deep as possible and trying to understand what anti-Semitism actually is at its core. And I feel like that it's such a deep thing that it's so intangible, it's so abstract almost, that it's difficult to pinpoint and put a finger on it. And I feel like it's almost at the level that it's something almost built into human fabric at its core. Like it's almost as if it's connected to the sins of the deepest sins, like of jealousy, of hate, of the violence. It's something that is connected to almost the human soul, and that I feel like it's something that we have to continuously fight against. The more I speak about it and learn about it, I feel like the world will never be cured from it. It's something that we continually have to fight against, almost like an immune system in a body. What do you feel about those thoughts that I have about that? And also, what do you think anti-Semitism is at its very core?
You know, so many books have been written about anti-Semitism and its sources and its motivations and what could make people to hate Jews. I started with the religious aspect, which we cannot ignore it, because among the Christianity, this hatred towards Jewish people existed for many years, and unfortunately, with the radicalization of the Islamic world, who also sees Jews as enemies according to the religious, what they call religious reasons, is too big. They interpretate different things of the Quran and interpretate it against Jews in a very extreme way, and that's actually internal, I would say, Islamic issue, this radicalization. But since the Islam is huge faith and religion, uh, even if you have 10% of radicals, that's already hundreds of millions of people who are radicals. But the issue or the idea you mentioned about this jealousy. Jealousy is a natural character, I would say, and every healthy person should have some jealousy. And the reason God created this jealousy is in order to motivate us to do better, in order to develop the world. If people wouldn't have jealousy, then it would be one company would create a vaccine against COVID, and that's it. But because of the jealousy, we saw other companies who tried to do better. At the end, the world got better products. And it goes for anything. It could be for computers, for phone, for technology, for agriculture, for cars, for anything, for design, anything in the world. So actually, jealousy is not a bad thing if it is used in the right way. The problem is when people do not think they have to do something better, and this is what I would like to explain something specifically about Jewish people. The Jewish faith and the Jewish belief is that while every person in the world has the full rights to look after himself and after his family, Jewish people are not allowed to think that way. Every Jewish person, according to our faith and belief, should do everything he or she can to make the world a better place. And think not only about him or herself, but think about the world, to improve the world. And that's the reason why so many Jews throughout the histories, millions of Jews for generations, despite the difficulties, contributed so much to the society. You name it. It could be in agriculture and in culture, in art, in music, in movies, in business, in anything, in medicine, in anything. Jews is the nation that contributed the most to society compared to the number in society. Less than 0.02% in society, and yet 30 or 40% of Nobel Prize winners were Jews, and in many other areas you could see the impact of Jewish people. Now, when you see somebody who is busy to do the world a better place, and you're jealous, but you're not ready to do it yourself because you do want to look only after yourself, it leaves you only with a jealousy without the motivation to do what this guy do. And this is where this jealousy got stuck, because people are jealous. They see so many Jewish people are successful and contribute to society. They do not want to do the same because they prefer to look after their own families only, and yet they express hatred towards those people. And when you're a person that you see somebody do something good and you hate him, the way to, well, I mean, you cannot say they doesn't do anything good because you see somebody contribute a lot. So what you say, he just do it for himself. He just do it because he want to get power. He want to control the world. The reason he contribute not because he cares for us, they just want to do he just want to be respected. They want the glory, etc. That's when you have jealousy, and you do not want to do what a person do, and you have to try to criticize the good things that the other person was doing. This is one reason, one important reason that will be with us forever, because Jews forever will continue to work as hard as possible to make the world a better place, to bring values, to bring good, to help other people, to develop things that could make the life of the people in this world better. And anyone who do not share the same desire and motivation to do the same will always have this jealousy and will always criticize the Jews for doing all of that just in order to control the world. Why do we need to control the world? What for? If you want something, it's just one thing: to live peacefully, secured, and to enjoy the rights of every other citizen in the world.
And also, you have the aspect of the blood libels from the medievals, from the Middle Ages, and how easy it was, particularly for the church and for societies, to just use the Jews as the black sheep, to just place all the blame and all the guilt of the world on. Why has it become that way? And do you feel like it is still that way when we see today? I draw parallels between that and today when we see that Israel is blamed for genocide, like the worst atrocity ever, for defending itself. Do you feel like this is still parallels from the medievals, from blood libels?
When you hate somebody and you cannot find something to accuse him, you have to make up something, and that's what we see. And I think that you know sometimes we do not understand how normal and logical people could think so wrong, how people could still support Hamas, how people could ignore facts that are crystal clear. You have on one side one nation that want to live in peace and do want nothing but peace, and nations that glorify life, that try to save life. On the other side, you see people that even between themselves kill each other in huge numbers. The biggest number of Muslims that were killed in the recent years were by other Muslims. Look what happened in Syria, where Bashar al-Assad butchered 600,000 of his own people. Look what happened in Iraq. Look what happened in Iran. Look what happened in Afghanistan. Look what happened in Gaza. Every person, I mean, you see the way Hamas people treat their own people, how brutally they torture them on a daily basis. You see what happened to a Muslim girl that go out with a man that, according to the Islam, is not correct. The way that they believe people should treat other people who are wrong is their way, and I do not criticize them. That's their way. But you see the Hamas people on one side, and you see Israelis on the other side. They invaded Israel. They destroyed villages. Just yesterday, a woman was on the way to the hospital to give birth, and she was shot for death on her way. What for? A citizen, a mother to 4 children. The last one was born yesterday, and was born an orphan, and doctors are still fighting for his life. And you see that all the humanitarian assistance was supplying was stolen by Hamas people. They were shooting to death the Palestinian people, the starved Palestinian people were trying to get some food. And yet, how could you continue to blame Israel? Israel wanted one thing, to get the hostages back and to make sure that Hamas, as a terror organization, would not be ruling Gaza. That's what the two requests of Israel from day one. If Hamas wouldn't start this war the 7th of October, it would never happen. Yet they took all the money, the European Union, with our tax money, they built hundreds of kilometers of terror tunnels, and they hide there while they give the citizens to suffer. And yet you still see politicians who accuse Israel. Something we really don't understand. How could you be that's wrong? How could you think so not straight? We sometimes there are things that we don't understand. We just don't understand, but it's all not logical that we simply cannot understand how it could be. How it could be. So we have to come to conclusions that there's other reason behind, other motivations behind. How could you see a terrorist attack, a terrorist organization attacking citizens and support a terrorist? Something is really, really wrong. So yeah, we have to recognize that something is wrong, and if something is wrong, I don't want to compare it to those blood lies, but yeah, but that's for sure. Blaming Israel for what Israel shouldn't be blamed, that's something that should be really questions, I would say, by the European themselves.
In Europe, the countries with the largest amount of Jewish communities, like Great Britain and France. And do you feel like that is a protective factor for Jewish life, or is that also a substantial risk in the countries where there are the most Jews when it comes to anti-Semitism?
When you have a lot of your enemies in one place, it makes it much easier for you to destroy them all at once. So sadly, I wouldn't think that it give any confidence or any additional certainty or security to the Jews who live in Paris, for example, or in London. And actually, we see that Paris and London are cities with the highest number of anti-Semitic incidents, especially in the last 2 years, but not only in the last 2 years.
I understand that you're in Brussels. What's it like there, where you are?
I mentioned the two issues of freedom of religions that we're going through. We do have also issue with security. We're opening in our kindergarten, a Jewish kindergarten. You know how much does it cost for us? Just the facilities, the security facilities for a small kindergarten that will be maybe 35 or 40 kids. It's close to €500,000 just for doors, bullet for windows, for emergency room, for shelter, for different equipment that aim to protect little children from terror attacks. How Jews could do it? Where should we take all this money from? I spoke this week with the president of the Consistoire of Paris, who told me about the budget of millions of euro yearly for security guards. From where this money is supposed to come from? So on one hand, government does not support because there's separation between religious and state in some countries, in France, for example. But on the other hand, because we are religious, we have issue of security. So either you secure us, like you secure all your citizens, or you pay for it. Why do Jews have to pay for their own security? I will not call it bribing, but it's blackmailing us. We have to pay for our security. Why should we? Why no other citizen have to pay for his own security? That's the situation also in Belgium. We see a lot of people in Belgium. We see a lot of demonstrations, a lot of anti-Semitism on campuses where students feel very unsecured. So the security is challenging, I would say. Universities, challenging. Freedom of religion, very challenging. So if we could still walk on the street without being executed, yes, I'm still alive. Does it mean that the Jews who live in Belgium feel comfortable, secured, and happy? The answer is no.
This emergency resolution that you've passed in the EGA, I just want to read a couple of paragraphs from it, and we can comment on it as well. The title is Jewish Leaders Pass Emergency Resolution, Declare European Inaction and Antisemitism Unforgivable. In a dramatic close to the 2025 European Jewish Association Annual Conference in Madrid, over 150 Jewish leaders from across the continent passed a landmark emergency resolution, a direct challenge to Europe's governments. Take responsibility for Jewish safety now, or watch democracies collapse under the weight of your silence. Held under the banner Building or Leaving, Decision Time for Europe's Jews, the conference laid bare the scale of anti-Semitism spreading across European societies and the failure of most political, academic, and civic institutions to confront it. Anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism are two sides of the same coin, said Rabbi Menachem Margolin, chairman of the EGA. Europe has imported hate, and it is out in the open for all to see. The leaders who are pretending not to see it are directly contributing to the problem. Faced with a continent-wide explosion of anti-Semitism and ongoing government inaction, Jewish leaders at the EGA annual conference in Madrid adopted a forceful 6-point action plan, a direct challenge to European institutions. And I thought at the end of our conversation now we could discuss these 6 points that you want to see implemented. The first is a binding legal definition. The European Union and the European Court of Human Rights must adopt and enforce a universal legal definition of anti-Semitism with criminal penalties applied across all member states. Let's talk about that one. What could that look like, a legal definition of anti-Semitism? And just take it from there.
No, first of all, I must say the headline, the title of this conference was Building or Living. Yet the leaders decided building. We're staying. We build. I cannot guarantee that next year in 2 years conference, if we will have the same title, the decision will be the same. Now, if you would like to combat anti-Semitism, the first thing is to accept or to recognize what should be considered as anti-Semitism. And IRA definition is a clear definition that identified exactly what should be considered as anti-Semitism. And many countries adopted it, not all of them. Yet, even those who adopted it just as a declaration, but not as a binding law. So, what the first thing that we need is commitment. We would like to see governments in Europe standing behind the statements that they would like to see Jewish life in Europe. And first of all, to make sure that our definition will be adopted, the definition of anti-Semitism will be clear, and that it will be also abiding in the law. So if somebody do anything which is against which should be considered as anti-Semitic according to this definition, will be punished. Will pay the price for breaking the law for this crime. And so far, for example, if you go through the definition of IRA, you will see what the allies, the countries identified as anti-Semitism, and yet even if people do it in the countries today, it doesn't mean anything to anybody because it was just a declaration. So we have to make sure that it will be binding, and then the governments will indeed follow up and will monitor, and like they do with any other person who break the law, they will do the necessary. There's law enforcement in every country which aimed exactly for that, to ensure that people follow the laws, and we have to make sure that the IRA definition will be also part of the legislation.
Yeah. Would there be any changes or amendments or anything to the IHRA definition, or would you adopt it just as it is right now?
As it is right now is great. If it will only just really be adopted and binding.
Yeah. And the second point is a citizens' charter launched nationwide campaigns reminding citizens of their duty to uphold Europe's core values of tolerance, dignity, and respect.
I think it's quite clear. If you are leading a country, and you know that a big percentage of your population carries hatred against Jewish people, against any other minority, that's something you have to deal with. If you know that, I don't know, if you, for example, you live in a country where too many disabled people will complain that they see intolerance on the streets. Every normal country that will know that there's an issue, that a big percentage of the society does not tolerate or does not have patience or does not treat disabled people in the right way. Every normal country will go out with a massive campaign to try to educate the people. If too many old people will complain that they're not respected, that young people doesn't let them sit, or pregnant women does not. I mean, people do not treat them with different way. That's normal. If you see that you have a sickness in your country, you have tried to deal with it. If you have bullying in schools, you do a campaign and you try to educate the kids, and you work hard. Tomorrow, if you work hard with school principals, with Ministry of Education, with children, you run program, you do the necessary in order to try to educate the children. So that's what a normal country should do when they are aware of an issue in the society. And then we speak about a minority that live in many countries going through anti-Semitism and anti-Semitic incidents on a daily basis, and yet governments do simply nothing about that. So this is why we are calling governments, if you really care, show us that you care, recognize the issue, and then start to act it as you would do if the issue would be towards any other minority.
Also, the third point is accountability in academia. Tie public funding to university compliance with anti-discrimination standards. Institutions must answer for silencing Jewish voices or enabling hate. Yes, would you comment on that too?
No, we got different students, representative of different students who came to our conference. And what they tell us is terrifying. The fact that Jewish people have issue to access the classes, the fact that there are a lot of huge and massive and brutal demonstrations on campuses, that anything have to do with Jewish or Israel are cancelled. They do not get the permits to have any conference or briefings or anything to explain, and that Jewish professors are boycotted by different. I don't want to, to mention specific names of universities, but it's crazy that on one hand, universities do have this right to control their own campuses, but then it's like they live in completely other land. Like they don't care at all what the law says. They don't care at all what does it mean that that everybody who have power should combat anti-Semitism. They just ignore it, just let it go. And no, that's something which shouldn't be acceptable.
Hmm. The fourth point is campus radicalization equals a national threat. Treat extremist activity in universities as a security risk, not a student issue.
That, as I said before, to say it's just students' issue, it's not that you ignore, it's just you deny your responsibility to act, because everybody understand, everybody who see the pictures, everybody who go on campuses, and everybody who see the images and the videos going out from different universities sees that there is a serious issue of security risk for Jewish students. And if you just name it as like just issue between students, it just you just ignore and deny your responsibility. So yeah, we do demand universities to take more responsibilities towards the Jewish students.
The fifth point is police and prosecutor partnership. Formalize cooperation between Jewish communities and law enforcement to pursue and prosecute anti Semitic hate crimes.
So I'll give you two examples. One example I mentioned is the journalist in Antwerp who wrote that he would like to stab every Jew that he see on the street, and yet the prosecutor thought that he's not guilty. It shows us that again, even things that for us and for many other people, logical people, it is clear anti-Semitism and incitements. There are still people who have a lot of power who are not educated or who do not really understand what it is anti-Semitism. If our definition is adopted, then you see a demonstration somewhere where anti-Semitic statements are or become really carnival of hatred, and yet the police officers does not even know what they should stop, what shouldn't be stopped, what should be okay, what should not be okay. That means that they should be educated. So this is the reason why we would like that every country will adopt or will appoint a special prosecutor to deal with anti-Semitic incidents. This is not to speak about one or two incidents. In every country in Europe, you have between hundreds to thousands of incidents every year. Uh, that's enough for one prosecutor to be dedicated to deal with anti-Semitism, and that yet also police officers and judges and prosecutors have to go through education or training sessions that will explain to them much more what is anti-Semitism and what is expected from them.
And the sixth and final point is a PanUropean Jewish task force. Establish a centralized coordination body to drive legal, political, and security action across countries.
Yeah, so basically, that's what we try to do together with our colleagues, partners from across Europe. We have to be united. We have to work hard. We have to express our concerns. We have to raise our voice. We have to raise the awareness and to work with the legislators and politicians across the continent that slowly but surely will adapt the plans that exist for long ago. There's no need to invent anything. Uh, I can tell you, it is very simple to fight anti-Semitism. It is very simple to ensure Jewish presence in Europe, and the steps are not huge. But what it takes is serious commitment of the governments, and we are ready to collaborate with any government on any issue, on any subject, and we intend to do so. We do it so far. We'll continue to do it, and I really much hope that next time we'll be talking, I will be able to tell you that the situation are improved, and in so many aspects, in many countries, situation are getting better and better, and Jews are able finally to smile again.
That would be great. A final question for you, Rabbi, before we close up is what do you hope to see in Europe in the next 3 to 5 to 10 years?
What I would like to see is governments,
Yeah.
again, that take responsibility, set the laws, adopt IRO definition, make it binding, legislate, ensure full freedom of religion, running campaigns to educate the people, um, congratulate and appreciate the contribution of Jewish people to society, ensure the presence of of police enforcement and other security enforcement around Jewish institutions in the Jewish area, and giving the Jews finally the feelings that we are welcomed on this continent.
Thank you so much, Rabbi Margolin, for talking with me today. And I hope so too. And I hope that your wishes for Europe will come true.
Amen, as we say. Thank you very much for your time.
Amen.
And yeah,
Amen. And
we
Shabbat
hope
Shalom.
we should share good news soon indeed. Shabbat Shalom to you too, and to whoever will watch and will listen to us.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you. All the best to you.